We're here. This is the Zona del Silencio. I'm Russ Ryan.
And this is Agent Drea Mora.
Hello, Agent Drea Mora. And these recordings are coming to you from the infamous Zona del Silencio, or Zone of Silence for the English speakers. In each trip here, you and I, Drea, will be presented cases related to the strange and unusual, and our mission is to research the cases, observe the surrounding information, and disseminate its merit, all while here in the Zona del Silencio. Is that a fair summation of why we're here?
I think so. I got this letter and everything. It sounds like that's all we have to do. I'm kind of worried that there's something else we're supposed to do, but I hope that's it. Yeah, we just have to research, observe, and disseminate, and hopefully get paid afterwards.
I don't know what pay is involved, and I feel like we should give a little backstory on who we are and how we came to be here. And so I will explain a little bit. Drea and I have been digital broadcasting for the last 3 years on a program that discusses the strange and unbelievable. And because of that, we were contacted by a group here about the prospect of being taken in as research agents for a media outreach wing that works near the Zona del Silencio. And here we are. It was hard to pass on something that calls you an agent.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't even called myself that yet, but it's hard to pass up.
I immediately want that title. I am going to be Agent Mora. It sounds kind of too formal, but I like it. I hope that they take me as seriously as they think that I should be taken seriously. I'm ready for it.
Yeah, AD. That's a good initials. There we go. So where are we? Where exactly is the Zona del Silencio? And we should explain a little bit about this. We are in an area of mountainous desert that is located between the states of Durango, Chihuahua, and Coahuila, Mexico. Did I say that
You
right?
did.
Coahuila?
Yes, Coahuila. Perfecto.
It is also known as the Mapimi Silent Zone because we are very close to the town of Mapimi. And it is called the Zona del Silencio because, according to reports, in this area, electromagnetic transmissions cannot be received, radio does not work, compasses do not point to magnetic north, and the flora and fauna have abnormal mutations, which I can't speak of quite yet. This is our first day. This is kind of like orientation here in the Zona del Silencio.
Yeah. I wasn't sure what to expect because of that. I know that it was like I briefly looked into the Zona del Silencio. What was it? A couple of years back, I think we had mentioned it before, and I was really apprehensive. I'm like kind of scared, but so far I've seen lizards, normal, shrubbery, normal. I haven't seen anything weird yet.
Yeah, looking here. My first thoughts were, what a desolate place this is. Just to describe what this place looks like. Yeah, but we'll get to that. And I want to talk about some of the things that were presented about this place. So this phenomena of the Zona del Silencio, this was first reported in the 1930s by Francisco Sarabia. And he was a Mexican pilot who said that his radio had mysteriously failed to function while flying over the zone. And I got to ask, Drea, are you familiar with this pilot, Francisco Sarabia?
I mean, I wasn't before this whole thing, and I feel like I should know about him more. I think we're going to get to know him really well in the coming days.
Yes, and maybe I'm being a bit extra. I am excited to be a research agent. So when our first mission is to talk about the actual zone before we do this, I don't know, this was not in my file I was handed. I don't know why I got so fascinated with Francisco Sarabia. And the reason that his reports of radio failure here in the Zona were taken so seriously is because he was very, very famous in the 1930s. He was considered like the Mexican equivalent of Amelia Earhart.
Emilio.
No, he was, Emilio Earhart. They would call him. That was a great name for him. So I was so curious about this. I had to know. So I found out that he was a very accomplished pilot. He held all these different speed records. He was like back in the 30s when getting, you could get a record for doing anything, especially anything that was invented. Yeah, you could hold a record real
for
quick.
Eating pickles, easy.
Sure, when pickles were invented, yes, they were speed pickle eaters, of course. But he was, he got to do actually something very cool, which is fly planes very fast and go very far. And he also operated an aviation school, and he was a pioneer of commercial aviation in Mexico. He was a big deal.
Oh.
But unfortunately, he met a tragic end following what would be his greatest accomplishment. Francisco Sarabia Tinoco was returning to Mexico City after setting a record flight time of 10 hours, 43 minutes for a flight between Mexico City and New York City.
Oh.
And on his way back, he is taking off from Bowling Field in his BG Racer. Or GB Racer, sorry. I get it confused with the BG. But he had his plane was, the type of plane was called a GB Racer, named the Conquistador del Cielo.
Wow.
And on his way back from making this record run from Mexico City to New York, he crashed in the Potomac River. He had only gained about 100 feet of altitude when his engine failed, and the plane just dumped itself into the Potomac River, and he drowned.
Oh, my God. I mean, shit. At least you don't die in the fiery explosion, hopefully, that didn't happen when you make impact. But to die from drowning out of that
seems worse.
It is. I think it's worse. That's one of my biggest fears. And you don't really think about that as a pilot, that you're going to drown.
That's why pilots don't fly over here. They can't fly over. They don't want to.
Yeah.
He was the first to report this. And sadly, an investigation showed that a mechanic had left a wipe rag inside the engine compartment, and the rag had gotten stuck in a carburetor. And that is why this famous, very, very famous Mexican pilot was taken down. And his file that I did find, it had some old newsreel footage, which is very strange. They have a lot of very old media here as part of whatever the ZDS thing is here. But they have real newsreel footage after the plane crash and footage of his funeral. Drea, there were thousands and thousands of people lined up to show their respects to this guy. He has an international airport named after him. There are multiple schools, baseball fields, and he was the first to report anomalies here. I don't know why. Hey, look, they wanted me to research. I'm going a little too deep.
No, I don't think that there's such thing as too deep in this case. Like, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. I think that's the reason that you're here and you're looking into these cases. It's because you're the type of person to go, quote unquote, too far into these cases. I am brand new to all of these instances. This is really all new to me. I've never heard of this pilot before, and that he had thousands of people attend his funeral, and yet we don't even know about his name in the States or anything is crazy. I think this is a good thing that you're disseminating this information here.
Yeah, I think there might be a little more to it. I don't know why I do. Maybe we'll find out later.
There has to be.
It was just watching these old newsreels. It is real interesting. I hope there's more of these. But seeing just like the orderly, thousands of people just orderly standing there in the 30s. It's like this was just a funeral. But the way that people just were very much more polite, like in the 1930s, as compared to like what you can imagine now.
I don't know
some mob.
What happens at funerals around your area today?
I've never been to a funeral with that. Have you ever seen a huge funeral with like thousands of people lined up?
But I can only imagine that people are gonna try to be respectful during a funeral. I guess there are some that get out of control and turn more into parties than anything. And to be honest, that's kind of how I hope I go out. I want a riot. I want a giant party that just goes out of control.
Yeah, well, this wasn't out of control. They had like a wreath that was like 3 stories high. It was insane.
Oh, good.
This is why these reports were taken seriously at one point. Because of him. But it was more than just radio transmission affecting planes and stuff. What else is there out there, Drea? I know you had to do some research too.
Yeah, what I found was there were definitely reports of people seeing weird things in the area, but it sounds like it was afterwards, after that all of that went down. And that's what's interesting is that you mentioned things just failing while they're flying over the area. We all know that the U.S. Air Force Base usually in desert areas, they do a lot of experiments and testing out, rockets and whatnot. And so there was the Athena rocket. There was more than one Athena rocket that had been like missiles and stuff that we're working on in the United States. But one in particular was launched from a U.S. Air Force base in Green River, Utah. And this was the reason that this one was launched was for a scientific mission to study the upper atmosphere. Why they chose this particular area of the country to launch it in, I think it was just for reasons of solitude, that there just weren't a lot of big cities around. But it was supposed to come down near White Sands, New Mexico. And I'm reading here, it says, instead it went wildly astray and at 2 a.m. crashed in the heart of this area that is now known as the Zone of Silence. And that's just kind of a crazy coincidence that it would just down itself. Like at that time, there was no real reason. And it took them a while to find the wreckage and to bring the wreckage back and look over it.
See, this is the event. This is the event, I believe, that really, beyond Francisco and his reports, this definitely, whatever happened here with this missile, and I know there was a little bit of activity that happened here. They built an airstrip to find it. It took them a while to find it, too. They had to, it was an entire operation because, as we said, a lot of things don't work, which brings some credence to that. The fact that the military, it took them a long time to find this missile.
And
of all the places,
of
all the places, this thing's going from White Sands to another place in the United States to go, what was it? Oh, it's almost 600 miles off course. And of all the places to land here,
it goes super south. I mean, you can see easily on a map of the United States how close New Mexico is to Utah. There's no reason that it should have been suddenly just diverted south all the way here. It doesn't make sense. And that, I think that's why the government kept it very quiet. It was kind of like a just don't ask any questions. Yeah, sure. As they do. Yeah. It makes sense. I'm almost afraid of how much we're allowed to say here because I don't want anything coming after us.
Well, I think most of this is on record, and I need to observe some of the parts of this, and one of it is that this is supposed to be like an atmospheric missile. It's always like weather is like always the excuse for something that you shouldn't be doing. Like, no, the weather balloon is swamp gas. It's all this like it's just no. We're just doing something to help meteorologists. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, who knows what this actually was at the time that this happened? This happened in 1970, correct?
Yes. I believe it was right before that too. This meteorite fell into around this area in the same region was 1969. And that is often kind of looked to as a correlation to what created this kind of disturbance. They're thinking it's a magnetic disturbance, right?
Yeah, because they think it's a beyond radio and compass failure. The Zona is also known for being just this magnet for meteorite crashes. And the most famous ones, the one you're talking about, is the Alamende meteorite. And look, there's a lot of research on this. It happens to be the largest carbonaceous chondrite ever found on Earth. And the fireball was witnessed on February 8th, 1969, falling over the Mexican state of Chihuahua. And after it broke up in the atmosphere, an extensive search for pieces was conducted, and over 2 tons of meteorite were recovered. And it is described as, quote, the best studied meteorite in history. This thing has like abundant, large calcium, aluminum, rich inclusions, and that is among the oldest objects formed in the solar system. And this is interesting that this is the kind of thing where, right before this missile is drawn in, a year before, this most studied meteorite ever is just drawn into this one place. And looking around here, it kind of looks like a little bit like the moon, from where we are at least, that it does look like meteorites just have their way around here.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense when you look at all the craters on the moon. Luckily, the moon it seems like it's taking a lot of hits for us. It's bound to hit Earth several million times. Like, we don't know. We can never really keep track of how many really land on uninhabited parts of the Earth. But this was like significantly different because, like you said, of all of the composites that were found in it, that especially the magnetic sort, that seems to be what's really thrown this whole region off kilter.
And I have a feeling that this has been known about for a lot longer than the things that are easily found.